Welcome back to Miles and Mentors. We have another great one for you today. We're going to walk through another professional's whole line in their career, starting in the logistics industry and what they've learned along the way so we can pass that information on to you. So stick with us. We have a great episode lined up for you right after this on Miles and Mentors.
Welcome to Miles and Mentors, the podcast that humanizes trucking, getting real life advice and insights from logistics professionals from all over the industry. We sit down with those seasoned mentors who have put in the miles with a mission to pass on the knowledge gained from years in the industry to you. Now buckle up and enjoy the show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Today we have Katie Kaczmarek from Bridge Logistics. I'm sorry. Katie, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's such an honor.
100%. So tell me, just give me a little bit of a high level of just who you are and your role in the industry today.
So my name is Katie Kaczmarek, as you said. I'm a training coordinator here at Bridge Logistics, Inc. And it was an interesting journey to get here. So in my previous career, I was a men's wardrobe consultant of 14 years. And a longtime customer of mine who'd been shopping with me for 12 years. It was Black Friday of 2017, day after Thanksgiving. I think I got to the store that morning at 6 a.m. and him and his wife came in and I said, "Hey, this is your last holiday season shopping with me." And they were like, "Why?" And I was like, "Well, I'm going to get a 9 to 5. And he was like, "What are you going to do?" And I was like, "I don't know, Jim. I'm just going to get a 9 to 5. And his wife just started smiling real big. And he goes, "Here's my card. Put on your resume on our website." So that was in November of 2017. And I started here January 8th of 2018. So I just had my 7-year anniversary. I started in sales and then I went to operations for our number one salesperson here in the company. And then from there, I transitioned to training coordinator. So, we're unique in that the person training the people actually has the experience to back it up because, I know that's kind of rare in logistics. Really, it's rare in a lot of industries. But it's funny because, that was my introduction into the civilian supply chain. But I was cleaning out, I was dusting in my armoire the other day, and I had this crystal box of the coins I got when I was in the military.
Okay.
And the very first one that I got was when I was in AIT. I got it from the Fort Commander of what used to be Fort Lee, Virginia. And, on the back of it, he was a 2-star general. On the back of it, it was like, I forget the exact wording, but it was like logisticians of America. And I was like, I literally have been a logistician since I was 18 years old. Like it was just really dawned on me. Yeah, of course I was quartermaster. I was in supply chain. So, me working in men's clothing brought me to, being in logistics.
That's fantastic. Now, to kind of connect that though, going from men's warehouse, men's clothing, and then end up in sales in the logistics industry, how did that connect? Like, how did you end up finding about this company and getting involved?
Well, like I said, Jim, he was the co-founder of Bridge. He's the president. Like I said,
he gave his card.
Yeah, he's the one. Yeah. Sorry, yeah, the founder of Bridge was like, "Here, put your resume on our website." Okay. So, and he'd been shopping with me for 12 years. So, he knew that I could sell face to face. There was somebody else in my final interview. They said, "Well, we know you can sell face to face because you sold to Jim and Paul. Paul's our VP and CFO. What makes you think you can sell on the phone?" And I was like, "I don't know. Get me on the phone." I didn't think I could sell men's suits, but here I am 14 years later.
Yeah.
Let's get me on the phone. And I remember my second phone call. And, it wasn't my late 30s or mid to late 30s when I started. But, it's a lot of younger people and they were very timid to get on the phone and things. And, at some point you're just like, I don't care. My second phone call, I talked to a shipping manager. She's like, "Really? It's the first day of the month and you're calling me? You know how busy I am." And I was like, "You know what? I understand. I got to work today too. What do you got to do?" I moved to live with her like 6 months later. So it's just, I love cold calling. I'm one of those few people that do. It's just the hunt. Who are you going to talk to? What kind of conversations you're going to have? So yeah, it was just and Jim, the way Jim started shopping with me was, we had these particular khaki like golf pants that he liked. We didn't have his sizes and colors he wanted in. And I said, when I get them, I'll call you. And I ordered him like 6 pairs, called him a week later, and he's like, oh, I didn't actually think you were going to follow through. So that's how I snagged him as a customer of 12 years. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
so
it's been a great
kind
journey.
of relate from the aspect that, coming into logistics, on the marketing side, I came from a marketing background to marketing and logistics, but I'd never dealt with logistics before. I was, a fish out of the water coming into this industry. So, having that experience in sales, but not so much I guess from military, but not so much the direct familiarity with the logistics industry. What was that like, kind of getting to know the culture in the industry and taking it all in?
It was terrifying. I mean, honestly, I came from, an area where I was an expert in my field, and not just men's clothing, but like the textile industry. I was very self-educated. I can tell you all about the construction of a suit, not just whether it's wool or polyester. I can see somebody who's wearing a $5,000, suit compared to a $500 suit. It's just on site. Just like you can talk to anybody in this industry and they either know what they're talking about or they don't. So it was terrifying when I came into my interview, because I was used to like a touch screen point of sale system.
Yeah.
And I come into this office and everybody's got 2 computer screens on their desk. And I'm looking around like, what part of the building am I going to be working in? Like, this is not, I was, complete fish out of water.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to succeed, and I wanted to be at a company that had a soul again, because my previous company used to, you used to like the way you look, it could be guaranteed. And then that went away and it just didn't feel good anymore. It didn't feel like there was like a mission or a soul to the company. And with this being a family owned 3PL, it just coming in here, it just felt like, you could like breathe. And, so yeah, I remember my first day, I'm like always an energy 11. And my first day, Joe, who is the brother of Jim Campbell, the founder, he's kind of like in charge of all operations. And he's like, oh, you remind me of so-and-so. And I was like, oh, where's she at? I want to meet her. And he goes, oh, she didn't make it. So I was like, okay, great. But I took it in stride, and I like to remind him of that, every anniversary. I'm like, hey, I'm still here.
There you go.
So we joke about it, but yeah, it was really terrifying, but with self-education and, I just made sure that I immersed myself in the business as well as I could.
Right.
And we have, I'm going to say this obviously because I'm the trainer now, but we've always had a really great training program here. So it wasn't like I was just like trained for 3 days and then thrown on the phones. There's like a whole process to it, so that was a big deciding factor for me of what the training process looked like, because I don't want to start a job and look like an idiot, in comparison to somebody who might have a degree in logistics. But
Definitely.
Looking back now at past Katie, I wish I could have told her like, girl, you got this, just educate yourself. Every problem that happens, find out what the problem was, how it could have been avoided, how it was solved, put it in your mental filing cabinet for the future, and look at all sides. Don't just look at my side. I got to look at the carrier side of things. I have to look at the customer side of things. So yeah, just really self-education. But to begin with, I was terrified. And now I love logistics.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a screw loose somewhere, but yeah, I love it. I caught the bug,
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I mean, it's definitely an amazing industry, and I feel like it's changing and moving all the time. So it's fun to keep up with from all aspects. But kind of what you spoke to there, that's what we're all about. tapping into that lived and learned knowledge, the stuff that you have in your bank now that you wish you'd have known back then, and everything you've learned along the way. And the amazing thing about getting people like yourself on here is, while we kind of target those drivers, we love to interview positions all throughout the logistics industry to really see how all these gears connect and how this industry rolls and maneuvers as a whole. So if we could, to kind of get to that point, walk us through just a little bit, what is Bridge Logistics? Like, what do they do, and how is your time there gone up to the point of being a trainer? And then we can get into that.
Yeah. So, like I said, Bridge Logistics is a family-owned 3PL. So Jim is the founder and CEO and president. His brother Joe runs operations, and then his son Tony is one of our top logistics advisors.
Okay.
With absolutely no nepotism, Tony has earned every single one of his customers. He is one of the hardest working guys. We're all really hardworking here. We have a very unique culture.
Well, you have to be hardworking. You made it, right? The other one didn't.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And actually, we have really high retention for the industry. We have super high retention numbers for the industry. I know when I started, we didn't, and there was very few women here. We weren't very diverse at all. We've definitely diversified over the years. There's more women in the building, which is great. But it's great to have different viewpoints as well. But our culture is very unique. Some people, they say like, oh, we're a big family. Like, no, we're not. We're really good teammates to each other. We really do care about how each other is doing. And we may have different jobs, but we're all rowing in the same direction. There's nobody here that is going against the stream, because you just won't survive here if you do.
Right.
And everybody wants to see everybody else succeed. Every Friday at 3:00, we have our kick-ass meeting where we just call out fellow employees if they did something for us that just like, I was like, well, you kicked ass this week. And those range from anywhere from, 20 minutes to 45, it's just, and everybody's engaged that whole time. It was just it's nice to be able to like sleep in your own skin at night, knowing that you're doing right by your customers and your carriers. And, again, know that I'm working for a company, that has a soul. And so my first 2 years here, like I said, I started in sales. I started in 2018, and then 2020 hit and my book of business just like tanked. But they were like, Bridge was like, but we like you, so we're going to move you to operations. I was like, okay. And I was really super intimidated to move on to this person's team here, because again, at the time they were the top salesperson, and they're consistently in the top 3. But like there was an upside there's like 2 levels to this building here, and there was literally like hardly any interaction between the majority of the company and then those top salespeople.
Right.
So I was like shaking in my boots. But then by that kick-ass meeting on that Friday, I was like, oh, these are my people, It's like, these are my dudes, So that was great. And I learned so much on that team. And then it just kind of was a natural progression. I helped out the last, I think 3 months I was in operations. I was helping out on a different salesperson's team. They were moving frozen pies, and it was the holiday season. And there were 2 newer people on that team. And I just like came in like a Tasmanian devil, and I was like, no, you got to do it this way, this way, this way, this way. And the way I was explaining it, made sense. And then I like messaged the team lead, and I was like, can we go smoke real quick? When I was a smoker, I was like, I didn't mean to step on your toes. And he's like, no, great. Thank you. Do that. Take that off of my plate. And I had actually, in the military, I was a trainer too. I got my start in being a trainer at the age of 19. And every job I've had, I've kind of always been the person to train new hires. So It was just kind of a natural progression. There was a position open. My direct line leader, Ryan, he's the director of technology, training, marketing. Like, he wears so many hats, and it just wasn't feasible for him to continue to do that.
Definitely.
And so I was fortunate enough that they saw in me that, oh, well, Katie actually has the potential to, do this. And I've been doing this for 2 years now. I've made new, training modules. I've streamlined some things. I've added a lot. I've kind of put my own stamp on things.
Love that.
And it's been great to be able to do that, to be able to take it, take the bull by the horns and do it.
Yeah.
And I had a trainee ask me like 3 months ago. It was during their lunch break, and they were like, do you have any like extra like tips or tricks, that you've learned over the years that could maybe help me? And I was like, yeah, I'm training them to you now. Like all the little things that I didn't know about, you have now, like something as inconsequential as a cat scale locator website. I didn't know that existed for a long time. It's a required bookmark now. Everybody has to have it. So all those little hacks that I've learned, everything that's helped me along the way in my journey, I've integrated that into our training program. And that was my progression.
That's what it's all about, that lived and learned stuff along the way, right? And
Exactly.
I think that training aspect falls right into a huge aspect or a huge focus of ours, being that that mentorship level. How you've obviously said you've enjoyed that over the last couple of years, but how does that look in a day-to-day with your company? And the people coming in that you're training, are the majority of them, do they have a logistics background? Are they starting fresh in the industry like you and I kind of did? What does that training aspect look like?
I'd probably say the majority are college graduates. Very few actually have logistics degrees or backgrounds. Actually, in the last year, I've trained 2 people that have logistics background. One worked for 3 years at one of the 3-letter companies, and then when that non-compete was up, they came to work here. They were on our track and trace team. And then another one worked. I forget where he worked, but he's on our carrier relations team. So he's calling carriers like, hey, what lanes do you want? Where do you want to go? I got this. Can I send you these 10 loads next week? He's kind of spearheads that carrier relations team. And he's been here less than a year now. And he's heading a department. Like I said, the majority are college graduates. I'm with them, like the very first week, it's like, classroom and then, shadowing, but I'm not like, we don't like watch videos here. I'm like, I sit next to them and I'm showing them the programs click by click to get that, muscle memory. I'm also in charge of like continuing education. We send out quizzes so we can get like a temp check, where everybody's at. Hey, just different things about like compliance and general knowledge. What's your process for this or this? I also make sure we have a team here called the Wolf Pack, and they head up they're in charge of different teams here. So I'm constantly coordinating with them about different training needs or, just making sure that we're all, again, rowing in the same direction. We have what's called a Bridgeway committee, which is kind of like an SOP task force.
Okay.
So again, just to make sure that we're all doing things in the same way and the bridge way, because our mission really is to create these relationships with our customers and our carriers. It's not, we're not just out to just, hey, give me all your freight. We're not a good fit for everybody, So I really focus on drilling that into people's heads, when they first start, that we're not everybody's cup of tea. We're a boutique brokerage. I'm not going to compete with the guys who have a stadium named after them. It's just not feasible. We've got less than 100 employees. They're not our competition, and we're not going to badmouth them either. They obviously are, do what they do, and they're good at what they do for, they're doing something right. But we do things, we're able to control things at a more, molecular level. I can tell them, hey, this is how you're going to talk to drivers. You're not going to tell them, hey, I can't understand what you're saying because of your accent. You're not going to say that. You're just not going to, because, if I ever hear that, no, like instant conversation. But we're able to control, how we speak to people, how we do business. We're able to, control the culture from day one. Really, that's really what day one training here is like, it's like a culture check. It's like for the
Sure.
younger version, younger generation, it's like a vibe check for them, but our recruiting team goes through about, I'd probably say 300 applicants for every one new hire.
Wow.
We're not just like throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping it sticks. Like, we are really, we want to get the best of the best. And just like with our customers, we're not a good fit for all of our customers.
Right.
All carriers aren't a good fit for us, and all candidates aren't a good fit for us either. So our recruiting team does, and chef's kiss, they do an amazing job of getting the right people in the door, the right butts in the seats.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that goes for like, doesn't even have to be logistics industry, just any business out there. You see so many starting off, and even some that's been around for decades, they'll just take everything they can get their hands on. They're trying to reach every direction and please everybody. And I feel like a business truly becomes successful and like has that longevity when they finally see that, like, no, we're not for everybody. And if we focus where our strong suit is, we're going to be better for us. We're going to be better for the clients, and the clients and us are going to thrive.
Exactly. That's kind of that is our culture here. We're not going to be the cheapest. We're not going to, we're not going to be a good fit. Just because you're hauling plastic doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good customer for us. They're not how relationships work. Same thing with carriers. We are very strict on, obviously fraud is up, exponentially, year over year. We're very strict on who will load. Sometimes it's tough because, these one-man bands that have been doing this for 3 months, they're like, how do I get my foot in the door? Like, everybody's telling me that I need 6 months in service. And I'm like, the only thing I can tell you is, go to the big guys, go to those big, huge brokerages, work for them for, an extra 3 months. And then you can start working with everybody else. We're just we can't, we're not going to take the risk. We're just not going to. We're not going to take the risk on our end or for our customers. And we also don't want to put carriers in a bad spot either. We really try to make sure across the board, everything's, we're all in synergy with each other.
100%. A lot of what you're saying there, even from back in the beginning, getting that business card to kind of, vetting out the employees that you guys have, the clients you guys have, is making me think a lot about, networking and how powerful that is in the industry today, to know the right people and let them know about you and what you're about, how you operate. In your experience, in your view, how important is networking in the logistics community today?
Oh, I think it's super important. I actually, right before this, I was actually messaging another person in logistics about like this one thread on LinkedIn. I was like, girl, you got to hop on here. You got to see what's going on. When I started here, I had, I think, like 128 connections on LinkedIn, and I didn't want to use it. When I was on the development team, they were like, well, we're going to give you premium, so you got to use it. And I was like, well, I don't want to, because I was getting inappropriate messages.
Oh,
yeah. So I was like, all right, I'll do it again. And it has been such a great experience. The logistics community in the past like 3 years on like LinkedIn and TikTok and Insta, it's just, and YouTube. Like, I think you and I met through Logistics Lounge.
Yeah. Great
Love
guy.
Pedro and Hunter. Love those guys. I think it's been really important. And, just to get the Bridge name out there.
Yeah.
I had a brand new customer. Just real quick story. I had a brand new customer. It was first load. They were a crane company, and I was moving a load flatbed from Houston to somewhere in Tennessee. I think it was Nashville. And so I told him I had this one carrier on it, and they also had a brokerage. And I said, okay. And I said on the phone 3 times, this has to have a blah, 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 blah name on the side of the truck. When it shows up, it has to have this, your MC on the side of the truck. You cannot. And they were like, no, separate divisions, completely. They don't get our loads. And I was like, okay. I was like, it has to be your MC. And it was clearly written on the rate con. And so I called my customer day of pickup. I said, hey, my truck's going to be there in an hour. They were 30 minutes out. And he's like, great, wonderful. 35 minutes. And he calls and he says, Katie, we got a problem. And I was like, okay. And he's like, blah, blah is here to pick up, or this driver came in and said he's picking up for blah, blah company.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's who I put on it. And he's like, well, I forget what the name of the company was. I can't believe I forgot. It was like Oklahoma Flatbeds or something. And I was like, oh, well, that's a problem. And then as this is happening, that Oklahoma flatbed carrier was talking to my lead operations, and he's looking up in the computer. We just needed updated insurance for them. They were already on our preferred carrier list. So, and I think I was getting, I had paid this other company this amount of money. They were paying them $200 less. So they rebrokered the load for $200 less. We got the new insurance for the Oklahoma flatbed company. And I got back off a hold and I said, hey, I think his name was Kevin. I said, hey, Kevin, I said, you're good to load that truck. They've got a rate con in hand. And I paid them the same amount that I paid the first company, and obviously I called them. They went on our do not use list. You violated the rate confirmation. We told you on the phone 3 times. We had this conversation. So I called him the next day and I said, hey, Kevin, this is not how we operate. I'm so sorry. I mean, this is my first load with a brand new customer.
Right.
And he's like, I'm going to stop you right there. He's like, when the guy came in, he said, I'm picking up for, blah, blah. I forget. I don't know who they were. And I wouldn't shame him anyway. And he said, and I was like, no, Kevin was like, no, you're supposed to be picking up for Bridge Logistics. And the driver was like, Bridge Logistics out of Cincinnati. And he's like, yeah, because he'd done his homework on us too. He knew that we were a smaller brokerage out of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And he said, Katie, that alone, he said, I'm in Texas. The load is going to Tennessee. This was an Oklahoma flatbed carrier. They had less than 30 trucks in their fleet, but they knew Bridge Logistics by name. He's like, that alone impressed me enough. Here's my next 5 loads. Give me a reasonable rate. I'm not gonna bid them out to my other brokers. And I was like, oh my God, thank God, because that is, that I think, that just went a long way to me to, hear that, this kind of small potatoes trucking company knew who Bridge was. And he's like, we work with Bridge all the time, that just makes me feel like so good when I hear that from carriers, that they recognize our name. Actually, and I was in the hospital waiting room last year, and I had on a Bridge hoodie, and a guy goes, oh, I've heard of Bridge Logistics. I've heard really good things about you guys. And I was like, oh, thanks. Of course, I was there for a family member, so I wasn't thinking like, are you a shipper? Are you are you a carrier? Like I wasn't, that part of my brain had kind of like switched off, but that
inside of me is like, you heard of us, it's working.
yeah. So I like it. I like it when we get that feedback about Bridge. But that made me feel really good. That a smaller trucking company, they knew who we were and they knew we had a good reputation. They know we're going to treat you well.
Yeah, and I think that goes such a long ways. I mean, just to everything you've said, just the logistics community as a whole. Before I ever got in here, that's kind of the last thing I was thinking about this industry is being an amazing community. But it's like, if you take the time to tap in, it really is an amazing community. And it makes me think back, in a past life, I used to work like low voltage, new construction stuff. And it amazed me going onto a construction site, just how much lack of communication there was from all the different divisions, right? Like, I guess as a kid, I always thought like there was one construction company that did everything, but you go in there and you've got framers and drywallers and painters and you got wires, and then separate guys doing the electrical and separate guys doing the insulation, the plumbers, etc. None of those guys like to talk to each other. They've all got separate blueprints, and it just amazed me how this building ever came together. And not to say there's no community, no communication on any level, but I never saw it, and it was like insane. I think it goes so far when you do attempt to tap into the community how quickly it becomes a daunting world into a small world. And I think that means the world of difference. Like, these people in your guys' company, and we're able to, put respect on that just by knowing your name in that level, makes the world of difference.
Oh, complete world of difference. I mean, like I said, 3-4 years ago, this logistics socials weren't really there per se.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, logistics LinkedIn is off the chain sometimes. Grab the popcorn. But it's such a small community.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess, we've gotten into the good meat of the community, because we do all know each other and we all look out for, if another broker's like, hey, does anybody know of a flatbed carrier doing this or that, I'll repost their stuff. I'm not, and this vitriol between, carriers and brokers, this just butting of the heads. The broker carrier summit, I think, is a great thing to have happen.
Yeah.
So we can see the other side of the coin. And it, there's thousands of hundreds of thousands of us, but we're such a small community, and it really is really nice to interact and see all the different roles that people play, which is, I love this podcast because you do have so many different people on here, just like Logistics Lounge does.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked to an Australian trucker on there one time, asking about I think it's the Gold Coast Road, where it's like thousands of miles long, and where they do like the truck train, so that's really interesting to learn about. I love the sense of community that the logistics has, it's really great. It really is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's one of the huge things I've enjoyed, about this show, especially just being able to have those conversations with people like you, especially since, like you mentioned, the last few years since COVID, it kind of forced many different industries to, I guess, just crunch in, especially accept the virtual side of things a lot more, and really open those lines of communication. But I think it was amazing for the logistics industry from kind of that human standpoint, just to humanize the industry. I never saw before, like, the amount that I see today on TikTok and Facebook and stuff, just drivers out there kind of documenting what their life is actually like, what it's like running this load, the struggles out on the road, the wins out on the road. You never really got to see that side of things before. And I think it's a fantastic insight.
Yeah, I love watching. I'll tune in. There's two guys and a gal I follow on TikTok, and they'll just go live while they're driving, and they'll just, just start talking about like what they're hauling, where they're going, what their week's been like. And it's just really fun to see that, and see the different reasons why drivers do what they do. I hate to use this, but what drives them,
For sure.
And, what got them into the industry. And I love hearing all those different stories. I love I love seeing them on the socials and learning about the different, I don't want to say layers, somebody on, I don't know if it was LinkedIn or TikTok, they said logistics is like an onion. It's got layers to it. And I'm like, no, logistics is like a piñata. And in the piñata, you've got milkshakes and screwdrivers and, Venetian blinds. Like, you've got everything in there. Like, you don't know what you've got in there, but it's more like a piñata than it is an onion.
It is a diverse industry. It's all over the place.
Right. I mean, and I hate it when people call themselves logistics experts. Are you an expert in shipping and drayage? Intermodal? How did, I mean, we'll stick to dry vans and flatbeds and reefers, that's our lane. You know what I mean? We're not gonna.
Yeah, I guess maybe that is the downside of the whole COVID era that's happened over the last few years. Everybody is an expert these days. No matter they've been in the show for 2 minutes, they are a guru expert.
Yeah, it's like if I see that in your title on your, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna connect with them because I want to see what they got to say. You know what I mean? Like, I want to watch that train wreck.
the clickbait works a lot of times.
Yes, it does. I
You
hate to
know,
say it,
to
but
those
it does.
points,
Yeah.
like you're talking, we've connected on the aspect of the drivers, we've connected on the aspect of more kind of the corporate office side. But the amazing thing about this show and others is the opportunity to kind of branch those two together, getting the drivers in, contact and understanding how all these roles work, because the logistics industry, I mean, truly is the backbone of our nation and worldwide.
Yeah.
And all these moving parts, if one of these parts stops moving, it impacts the entire industry. So I think it's vital for us to understand and respect how all those parts move, why they move, and how we can make them move better together. Because at the end of the day, that's going to make everything better for everybody if we can just figure out how to keep this machine going versus breaking down.
Yeah, definitely. I actually got the chance to talk to Jamie Anderson. We talked for a couple hours one day. I just wanted to show him, I told him point blank what goes on our day-to-day basis here,
Yeah.
as a brokerage, what our mission is. We're not, all brokers aren't out to get the carriers. We're just not, and I got to hear a lot more about the driver aspect, what he goes through, and I train my people, hey, when you're calling a facility to get their hours of operation, ask if they have overnight parking. Ask if they have driver facilities on site. You're asking them for their hours. Ask them one more question. Do they allow overnight parking? Let's make it just a little bit easier on the drivers out there. Anything that we can do on our end for, the carrier aspect, we definitely want to take, obviously we take care of our customers, but we obviously want to take care of the carriers too.
Yeah. Well, and you had mentioned there kind of that broker carrier summit. And I think, I agree with you. That's been a huge impact to the industry. And especially they hosted here in Kansas City 2 years ago, I think it was. And that was awesome to be able to kind of see that firsthand and what they're all about, the intention there. And I think that is, again, bringing all those gears together and helping things coexist and work better. As that brokerage, how have you seen that impact the industry, events like that and possibly others? And, what do you think of them?
I think it's wonderful. I do think there might be too many conventions and events. You can kind of you hear about going to one and then 2 weeks later they're at another one, and it's like, you guys gotta be right.
Yeah, you could be a professional convention goer these days.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. But the Broker Carrier Summit, I've not personally been. I mean, why would the trainer go? But I think it's been wonderful for the industry. And I think, also the socials, with us getting to talk to each other, and, see where we can find common ground. When I started like in 2018, the ELDs had kind of just gone into effect, like the first phase of it. And, and then, COVID happened and there was that spike and then dip and then spike again. And, we realized if any of us were going to make it, we had to make it together. I think it's been nothing but great, for the industry, for us to start listening to everybody else, to listen to our counterparts. You have to.
Now, I know we're getting kind of near the end here, but one point that kind of got brought up a little bit ago I want to touch on is kind of the technology within the industry. And, I mean, logistics is one of those, it's got a lot of regulations. In some ways has always felt a little slow moving to, truly adopt stuff, but there's so much technology coming into the industry. In your side of things, how has technology impacted the industry in your view? And what do you see coming in the next, 10, 15 years?
I mean, I remember when I started, the system that we used looked so antiquated. It reminded me of the interface was like Napster. I don't know if you remember Napster, LimeWire,
Too well.
Yeah. But it was just such an antiquated interface. And it was, we used to send off a PDF of 32 pages of our carrier packet, and then they'd have to email it or fax it back in. And now it's just with Highway, it's just 11 seconds. And we're lucky enough here to where the director of technology and training and marketing, Ryan Ziemba, my first line leader, he's actually the chairperson on the technology committee for the TIA.
Love
so we kind of get to hear about things before they happen. I think it's, when people talk about like AI, they're like, am I going to, where's my position going?
Yeah.
You're never going to be able to do this without the people, and as far as autonomous trucking goes, I can't imagine the American people being okay with 80,000 miles or 80,000 pounds going down the highway at speed without a driver in the cab, I mean, because anything can be hacked, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
I can't imagine. I could see it in an industrial park it working, going warehouse to warehouse, but I can't imagine them going down, I-75. I just don't see it in the future. But as far as all the technology pieces, as long as we can get some of them to coexist together, which we have been able to, I think it's nothing but a good thing. And it does allow for, I think, more personal connection because it frees you up in other areas.
100%. And, we've seen the whole AI scare, which, turns into a giant, conspiracy theory at some point, but we see it in every industry, right? And everyone's terrified. And we see so many people like literally jumping careers just because of the fear of AI. It's like at a certain point, you could be scared of anything that comes your way, but it's like, it's kind of a tomorrow problem. It's not a right now problem. If we all dump, one, we're going to kill the industry. Two, we're going to force them to replace us because, someone's got to get this done. We can't afford for logistics, especially to come to a halt because everyone's scared about a tomorrow issue.
Right. Exactly. Go into work today and do today's work,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I fully agree. I mean, I think AI has, and who knows? I mean, it's come a remarkable way in just the short amount of time we've seen it at a public stance. So who knows what that means for the future? But personally, I think there's always going to be a human aspect to pretty much everything. I think stuff like AI is going to be amazing for the supportive measures. And just what it can do to streamline and make stuff more efficient, but I don't see it just replacing everybody because the concern in every industry is it's going to take all the jobs, and it's like I just don't see that.
No, I don't see it happening either. Just I think you hit it on the head with the support. Just maybe some automations, and that's where it's helped us. But it's never going to replace the people answering the phones.
Definitely. Well, it has been amazing talking to you today. Before we move to wrap up, though, I want to give you an opportunity. Anything you feel like we've missed today?
I really don't think so. I think maybe just, I mean, no, I don't think we really have. We've talked about, how Bridge operates with its, dealing with our customers and our carriers. It's on equal footing. That's not to say that other brokerages don't do that out there, but I know from some horror stories that I've heard. I'm glad I work for Bridge, again, because it's a company with a soul. And I hope that we all can remain listening to each other, remain listening, to the other side of the conversation, and listening and taking it to heart, listening to what people are telling us, and not just saying, oh yeah, I'm so sure. Really see the other side of the coin.
Love it. Well, I want to give a chance for some shameless plugs here. Tell people how can they find out more about Bridge, and for the networking side, how can they get a hold of you as well?
Yeah, so bridgelogisticsinc.com. And as far as I go, my username on just about everything is Kaczmarek. So it's Kazmeraz. Got that nickname in the Army. And on LinkedIn, Katie Kaczmarek, last name Kaczmarek. But that's how you can find me. Pretty much, again, Kaczmarek, or look up Katie Kaczmarek. There's another Katie Kaczmarek in Texas. She's a math genius. I'm not her. So I'm out of Cincinnati. So that's all. That's the places to find me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It has been a
Thank you
true
so much
pleasure
for
to
having me.
sit down and pick your brain.
It's been an honor. Thank you so much, Alex. Appreciate
All
it.
right. Well, we hope to have you on again. Everyone out there watching, thank you so much. Make sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, stay safe out there. Have a great day.
Thank you.